like I'm coming through loud and clear, and it is the top of the hour, so let's get started. Hi, I'm Andrea Hill, and I am your host for this MJSA webinar series. MJSA has offered this series for about 2 years now, and before the coronavirus crisis, we were doing it every third Thursday, free to our members, and then as a paid for people outside the MJSA community. But once the coronavirus pandemic hit, MJSA decided to make this series free for the entire industry, and we went to an every week schedule. And sometimes we've done them twice a week, like next week. And that was just as a service to the industry to help everyone through this difficult time. We will be continuing the every week, sometimes twice a week schedule through the end of June, and it will continue to be free for the industry. But starting in July, we're going to go back to our paid model. We will be doing every other week at that point. And if you don't have your MJSA membership yet, and you like this webinar series, you might want to consider going ahead and signing up before July hits, because we sure don't want to lose you, and we have a lot of fun doing these sessions with you. So thank you to MJSA for offering this series to the industry. And with that introduction, I'm going to just jump in and get started. I'm going to switch over to my screen share. And while I'm doing this, I just want to encourage you, if you have questions during the session, please just jot them down in the chat box as you think about them. Sometimes I catch them in real time. Other times I don't, but I will catch them at the end. But I don't want you to forget a question that you have. Also, if you have any difficulty seeing or hearing this session, if you use a Firefox or a Chrome browser, that's best. If you're still having difficulty, there may be a bandwidth problem on your end, though if I see a lot of people having difficulty, I'll assume the problem's on my end. And if we cannot fix those difficulties one way or the other, this session is being recorded and you will receive a recording link once the session is over. So let's get started. Today we are going to talk about combining live and virtual selling in your organization. And what we're really talking about is transforming your sales cycle. It's not just COVID-19 that has us talking about this. Retail and supplier to retail selling has changed dramatically in the past 20 years. And while we've all talked about it a lot, there haven't really been any major shifts in the way we, and I say we as an industry, sell. In a lot of ways, we just kept doing the same things, tweaking our expenses, and trying to make the old ways work. But foot traffic was already down before COVID. Prospecting for new customers had already changed. Trade shows were difficult to justify in terms of costs. And it was already changing. So COVID has had a dramatic impact, but much of its impact has been to accelerate and accentuate what had already begun happening in retail before the crisis, which is what big crises like this tend to do. For suppliers, and I know I've got suppliers, studio, and design jewelers and retailers on this session, I will be presenting information for all of you, and some of you do all of those things. For suppliers, the loss of trade events has created an immediate gap in your selling cycle. For retailers, you can't really anticipate someone just walking in the door and striking up a conversation and then leading them through the steps to a sales close, or at least not in the same way you once did. And it could be a long time before the public feels at ease doing the kind of public activity that they did in the past and walking into stores the way we did, was it just 6 months ago now? But as I said a moment ago, even before COVID, today's buyer started approaching you differently. They started approaching you only after doing extensive online research, and by the time they get to you, they've already pre-qualified you based on your website. And you need to quickly figure out, when you finally do encounter them, what part of the sales funnel you're in, because you can't just assume you start your contact with a customer at the awareness or discovery phase. They may be further down that funnel than they were in the past. So learning to sell virtually is not just about COVID. It's something we already needed, and now we need to get really good at it really fast. So the sooner you can meet your customers face-to-face, and I still think face-to-face is very important, the faster you can start moving them through the sales process to a close. Now, you may be expecting this session to be about showing you how to use online meeting or webinar software to conduct your selling activities, but I think that would be boring, and I think you already know a lot of that. So what I'm actually going to show you, yes, I'm going to talk about these systems. Don't worry if that's what you came for. But what I really want to focus on today is how you can reimagine your sales process to incorporate these and visual, group and individual, visual, virtual sales activities, both live and pre-recorded. We'll talk a little bit about recorded as well throughout your sales cycle. It's time to approach the steps in the sales process in an entirely new way using what is really affordable and accessible technology. So I'll give you the selling information and which technology to use and a bunch of ideas about how to make some changes in the way you approach sales. Now, to do this kind of work, you really need a CRM. You need a customer-centric management tool that will capture the information about new prospects and help you manage and nurture them through the sales process that we're about to discuss. Without a CRM, you'll have to work twice as hard and you'll lose at least twice as many deals. I'm not talking about CRM systems in this talk today. I have done several webinars in the past several months where I've gone into more detail about CRMs. But I needed to mention it now because I do refer to integration to your CRM system at several points in this presentation, and I don't think it's realistic for you to consider doing this kind of selling if you don't have a CRM tool. Now, I am seeing a couple of people saying they don't have any sound. I need to make sure everybody else has sound so I know if the problem's coming from me or if the problem is on the receiver end. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, so for those of you who don't have sound, I'm really sorry. I know that's frustrating. There's probably, your computer's either probably trying to grab your headset, which is no longer plugged in, or there's something going on where it's not receiving your speaker. So anyway, I just needed to check because I got a little worried there. Okay, so back to why you need a CRM. So different types of businesses do need different things from their CRMs. B2B uses it a little bit different than B2C. And the good news is there are lots of different kinds of CRMs available, and there is definitely something that fits your business. So I want you to, and this slide just gives you a sense of the things that CRMs will do for your business. So I put that up there as a sort of a hint to the kinds of things you can look for. So there are systems for every size and type of company. If you want to talk with me about them after this session, I will be glad to do that if you need some suggestions, but I just couldn't go into this content without first saying you need a CRM. This is a minimum standard necessary to compete tool at this point. So a lot of people are struggling to understand the difference between a meeting, a webinar, and an online event. They're all great ways to connect with and sell to people, and they are really good ways to collect those all-important email addresses, but the systems are different. So we're going to do a quick overview of these three main types of systems, and then I'll move into the rest of the conversation about how to use them for selling. But I think it's helpful to look at the systems and do an overview first. So when I refer to them, you've got a framework. So let's start with online meeting systems. Online meeting systems tend to include screen sharing, whiteboarding, chat features. Many systems allow you to upload and share documents with the people you're meeting with. If you're using a system like Cisco or Microsoft Teams, then you can also store files and even set up virtual rooms for different clients or teams where those files are stored and you have conversation long term. For companies with many teams and employees, they also use these systems for internal purposes. They've been extremely helpful as employees have moved virtual. I am the managing director of a company in Italy, and I haven't been there since February now, but virtual meeting rooms make it possible to get most of the work done. So that's what a meeting system is. They're designed for smaller groups to get together and talk together and share information. Meeting systems have been around for a long time. In my company, we've been using them since 2009, I think. But most people really weren't paying attention to meeting systems because they didn't have to, unless they were in a virtual consulting type of world. But when COVID hit, the first thing people heard about was Zoom. And now Zoom has become the Kleenex of meeting systems. Now, Zoom's a fine tool, but there are many other that are equally as good. So don't just jump on the Zoom bandwagon without doing a little bit of exploration first. You want a meeting system that will maximize your approach to sales. It really is related to how you're going to use it. So it's worth looking into all the things each system can do. And once you better understand all the ways that you can use these tools in selling today, I think it'll be easier for you to evaluate which pieces or functions you want and which ones are less important to you. But on this list, Zoom is free for one-to-one meetings. You can even have, the free system even works for meetings of up to 3 people, but they limit you to 40 minutes. Vectera is also free for one-to-one meetings. And then if you want the full package of services they offer, it's $8.99 a month. DemoDesk is a tool that's used extensively in the software industry, but it's a really slick system and it has some cool features that are a little different than the other meeting systems. They start at $19 per user per month. GoToMeeting starts at $12 per host or user per month. Microsoft Teams is $5 per month per user, and then of course Skype and Google Meetings are free. There are so many meeting systems, and I'll say the same thing with webinar systems. So many, we couldn't possibly list them all comprehensively here. But I'm recommending the ones that I have used a lot and I feel confidence in. Susan, you're asking, are they all hackable, and is there anything you can do to secure your meeting software? Zoom had known deficiencies in its security going back years. I can think of 7 or 8 years. It's why we didn't choose them as our meeting software years ago. We actually work with Vectera. No, anything is hackable, but the problems that existed in Zoom were long known and never attended to. And then when everybody jumped on the Zoom bandwagon, of course, the hackers exploited it. If you're really worried about protecting a meeting from being hacked into, you can set a password and send the password to the users or the invitees and have them use the password to enter the meeting. Or conversely, some systems don't use passwords, they use a knock feature. So the person knocks on the door and you have to let them in and you can see who's knocking. Honestly, there should not have been a bunch of hubbub over security for these meeting systems if Zoom hadn't become so popular so quickly with already well-known holes for exploitation. And I do believe they fixed them now. So now let's talk about webinar systems. Live webinars, like what we're doing right now, are interactive events that can include chat and questions and polls. They integrate with your other systems. So they'll integrate with your Constant Contact or your MailChimp account. You guys got reminders for this webinar in your email. They came from this system. They could have just as easily been pushed through our email marketing system. You can store the video replay for access later. You can have product pop-ups that are pre-scheduled during your webinar that add selling elements on screen. Here, let me show you one of those. Let's launch a promotion. I never usually do these. And usually if you're going to be launching things like promotions, you want to have somebody helping you with your webinar so you can keep talking and they can launch it for you. But here, I'm launching a promotion on your screen right now. It came with a little ring. You can turn the ring off. It asks a quick question. You could book it now. I really do give free 20-minute consults. If you want one, push the button and schedule one. It goes into my calendar, which we will talk about in just a moment. So you can do all these things as part of your webinar. You can also do demo questions and polls. I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. I'm going to turn that off now. So, and these systems all integrate with the major CRMs. So you can store the attendee information. You can add new prospects to your database because, as you remember, you gave an email address to register. For those of you who've registered for multiple webinars, my CRM system has scored you with 10 points every time you attended. So I can see somebody who has, a very high point score is probably very interested in the information we share. Somebody who has a very low point score is either very new to the system, a new prospect, or They just attend on occasion because we're kind of hit and miss with the content from their perspective. So integrating your webinar into your CRM system gives you insight about your customers that you can use to do a better job being relevant to them and offering services and products to them. So that's what webinar systems are about. There are actually 3 types of webinars. So there's a live webinar like we're doing now. You can do on-demand webinars. On-demand webinars are pre-recorded webinars that anyone can register and see at their convenience. So it may be just something that is available for a month, and registrants see the promotion, log in, watch the webinar while it's available. Most of this, and then you can also use your webinar system for a meeting system. So some people will say, Anna, I don't want to pay for a meeting system and a webinar system. I'm going to get live webinar for my webinar system, and I'm also going to use it for my meeting software. It won't have some of the chat and file sharing tools. That's why I'm saying it's important to understand how you want to use these systems before you decide which ones to invest in. Smaller meetings I just said that. So you can use these systems for smaller meetings as a meeting system. You can also do instant meetings using many of these webinar systems, or you can offer an always on meeting room, which I'll talk about in a moment, or you can do scheduled meetings through them. And again, you can integrate these things with your calendar or your team management system. So these are webinar systems and the types of webinars you can do in them. Now, just like meeting systems, there are so many options, I won't even try to present the range of them. Frankly, they're getting really interchangeable at this point. I'm sharing the ones on the screen that I have personal experience with that I'm confident recommending to you. So live webinar, that's what we're using right now. It's free for up to 5 attendees, and then there's a $14.99 month package for up to 100 attendees, and then $119.99 a month package for up to 500 attendees. So the thing to remember with webinar systems is that they tend to be priced according to how many people you think are going to attend your webinar. Let's see, Live Storm is the next one. They have one package basically that's $99 per host per month, or you can talk to them about something bigger. This system's a little different than a lot of the systems because it's 100% browser based. That one and the one at the bottom, Webinar Ninja, you push all of your materials up to the cloud and you share from the cloud. And the reason those 2 systems might be interesting to you is if you have not very good internet speed, bandwidth at your place of work or at your house where you're working, those 2 systems will take some of the pressure off of your internet bandwidth because most of your sharing is going to be done from the cloud. So that would be a reason to consider Livestorm or Webinar Ninja. You can also use GoToWebinar. It was the first webinar software in the space. Most of us used it all the way up until maybe 2012 when other webinar systems started becoming available. And it's still a good system. And then, of course, Zoom. You can use the Zoom webinar package, which is different than the Zoom meeting package. So make sure you're paying attention to what kind of a package you're looking for. Okay, event systems. This is a really big thought process. And if you don't manage events, don't tune out because you might want to manage events. And here's why. So until COVID, there were only a few online event systems. But right now, there's this absolute explosion of them. I can hardly keep up. So let's talk about what these systems generally do. They generally cover the area of all those things on your screen. The first thing to think about with an event system versus a webinar system is that you may do some presentations that look like a webinar during your event, but the event is much bigger. It's a marketing tool and a registration tool and an organization tool and a collaborative tool. So what does that mean? Well, you can, first of all, produce a website for the event itself using very simple tools. Most of these systems are quite easy to do some basic website building on because everything is drag and drop. They take care of your online registration. So you can do free access, you can do tickets, you can do multiple ticket levels or tiers of pricing. They have built-in social media marketing tools, including providing all of your exhibitors, presenters, and sponsors with their own pages and their own social media promotion packs. So you can get your participants marketing the event with and for you. It's really powerful, and webinar systems don't offer that. Except for, if we go up to the webinar types, Livestorm does have some promotional tools that the other webinar systems don't. It does not go nearly as far as an event system, but it does have some promotional tools. Okay, I'm going back to our boxes now. Okay, so they have built-in media, email marketing. So you can promote and update people and confirm registrations. There's even a, did you forget what's in your shopping cart feature in most of these for tickets? So somebody puts tickets in their cart, but then they don't finish paying for them. There's reminders for that. The email facilities will help you engage with your attendees, talk to your exhibitors, keep your sponsors and your presenters informed. So it allows you to do community building and communications with all the different elements that are usually part of an event. They do integrate with your CRM system. So you're capturing all the new leads that come in through an event, and you can trigger sales activities in your CRM. So for instance, if somebody registers for your event and they're brand new and you've never seen them before, that can trigger a series of emails in your from your CRM about welcoming this new person that you didn't know. Whereas if somebody registers for the event and they are an existing customer of yours and you know them, it could trigger an entirely different series of emails from your CRM welcoming them to the event, but talking to them more as one of the family that already knows you. So there's lots of integration with CRMs from these systems. You can do exhibitor directories, so you can say who has what booth number. You can give people fast links. You click, they go to somebody's booth. They allow you to do networking activities. So, and that's for both online and for coordinating offline or in real life types of networking events. You can share business cards and invitations. You can send people requests for a chat. There are dashboards. There's an attendee dashboard usually where they can save documents. So your attendees want to know, like, who did I see and what did I talk to them about? So you can save their notes, save the collateral. Instead of hauling around a bag full of 70 pounds of paper, you're saving the electronic brochures and videos and images from the exhibitors. So attendees can do all of that management. They can see who they have an appointment with or who they want an appointment with. You can do virtual breakout rooms and sessions. So you can have separate, smaller gatherings going on during the event. You can do, they're all cross-platforms. You can log in for a while from your desktop and you're working, and then you need to go out and take your car in for service. And so you're sitting there waiting for your car to be serviced, and you can log back in from your mobile device, and it knows exactly who you are. So it moves seamlessly between the different platforms you might log in from. You can do surveys and polls. Not only do the attendees have dashboards and reporting, but event organizers. So if it's your event, you can see all kinds of reporting about how your event's doing, how many are registered, how many exhibitors are getting meetings, which exhibitors are not getting meetings, all kinds of booth statistics. The exhibitors also have dashboards. So if you've paid to participate in this event, you can see, like, who wants a meeting with me? Am I getting traffic? What kind of traffic am I getting? Is it qualified traffic? All the things you wish those little scanners would do for you at real life trade shows, it's a little easier to collect in this digital environment. They offer networking events and job fairs and live video streaming. And yes, webinars happen inside because lots of education happens at trade events, and podcasts. And then there are whole packages for managing your sponsors and keeping them happy for having sponsored the event, and also for managing your speakers and making sure they're on time and they know what they need to do and all that good stuff. That's what an event system does, and it does it all from a dashboard sitting at your desk. I want to drill in a little bit more on the booth part because there's this whole booth feature in most of these events, or many. Not all of them do booths, but many of them do now, and I anticipate that all of them will soon. So in a booth, an exhibitor, so say you pay to participate in an online event, you can present all your information for your company. You can allow attendees to rate and review your products and your booth. You can do product showcases, exchange business cards, set appointments, reach out to attendees and try to get them to come meet you for an appointment. There's lots of contact forms available for between exhibitors and attendees. You can do live chat with your attendees, not face to face in most systems, but at least typing. So somebody can send you a chat, you can chat back. Those are all the things that most exhibitor booth features do in these expo systems. For event system options, there's Hey Summit. That's the one my company chose to use, but I'm again offering a series of options that we've looked at and think are really viable or have looked at with some of our clients. So Hey Summit starts at $29 a month for up to 2,000 attendees, but they collect 5% of your transaction fees. If you don't want to pay them 5% of your transaction fees, you could pay $99 a month for up to 7,500 attendees and give them 1.5% of your transaction fees. Or you could pay $249 a month for 20,000 people, no transaction fees. So that's the way Hey Summit structured itself. Hopin is a fairly new system. I have not had a chance to get pricing on it yet. I know one of our attendees is looking at Hopin right now. If she has pricing information and wants to share it, you could drop it in the chat box. vFairs and Hexafair, InExpo, and WorkCast. No, I'm just going to lump vFairs, Hexafair, and InExpo together. Those are all really solid packages. They're expensive. I would say those really are more targeted at the I'm an exhibitor and run trade shows crowd because of the cost of them. And then WorkCast is more in that Hey Summit Hopin category where you have the option of doing really big events and paying more, or smaller events and paying less. So the way I would summarize this list of options, and there are more, and there's more arriving every day, is that anyone could use any of these tools. If you're a trade show organizer or a large exhibitor or distributor, you could use any of these systems to do a big event. For the smaller companies or the non-event companies thanks Deborah for sharing that about Hopin. So for the smaller companies on this call, where you may not realize you might like to do events, but I'm going to show you some ideas in a few minutes, know that Hey Summit, Hopin, and WorkCast are all sort of priced in your accessible range. Okay, so now you have a good overview of the various meeting, webinar, and expo systems and a sense of how they're different. So let's talk about starting to apply these tools and more tools to your sales process so that you can see we're not just starting to do Zoom meetings. If your idea of starting to do live selling or live virtual selling is Zoom meetings, then you're going to miss a lot of potential. So I want you to see there's a way to improve your sales process throughout by implementing some new tools and practices. I love technology, okay? I'm a little geeky that way, but I don't like to talk about technology for its own sake. I'll never forget when email first got launched, and this is back in the Lotus Notes days, so early 90s. There was email before, but not like this. So graphic, really easy to implement email got launched, and I remember watching it turn into a management system with horror. So there's this new technology, everybody starts using it, and it's like, I can use this electronic tool to communicate. And email became something it should not be in businesses. It became a management tool, and you wouldn't use snail mail for management, so why would you use email? So I'm really, really concerned that people learn that this is not just about a Zoom meeting. This is about using technology in your process to make your business more successful. So we have to talk about the process, right? Today we're talking about the sales process. So the sales process consists of a number of discrete activities or steps. Now, some people speak of the process in 5 steps or 7 steps. I like 8 steps. In my experience working with retail and wholesale teams, most people don't consciously think about these 8 steps, and many of the steps just kind of get smushed together. Well, when a consumer who's never walked into your retail store walks in and looks around and makes a purchase, they can go through all of those 8 steps in 15 or 20 minutes. So it makes sense that a lot of people don't think about all 8 steps. But as we talked about at the beginning of this session, the selling process has changed. And so it's really important that we think about the sales process and all of its discrete steps now, with or without technology. That's not a technology issue. So even though the market and customer behaviors have changed, the sales process steps have not. We just need to adapt how we're doing things and pay more attention. So now we're going to start talking about how to transform your sales process, but working within the process itself. Because even though the market and consumer behaviors changed, the process itself is the same. So the first step that I showed you on that screen was, somebody was asking, do I think this is the type of online event JCK is planning for August? I assume so. I don't have any personal insight into their process. I know about some of the tools they were looking at. So yeah, I think this is probably what they're talking about. Okay, so prospecting, the first step in the sales process. In last week's webinar, all we talked about was prospecting. This is the act of identifying potential customers. And believe it or not, it is one of the first places that you can use face-to-face digital selling to start the process off right. So we're going to talk about free, no obligation meetings and office hours and prospecting. The first thing you can do in prospecting is make it really easy for people to set low risk, fast consultations with you. You already saw this before in the pop-up that I shared with you. You could have a 20-minute meeting. People aren't so reluctant to do a 20-minute meeting or even a 15-minute meeting. If they hate, it's like speed dating. If you hate them, you're going to move on to the next table in a minute. It's not too painful to get away, and it's free. So short is very desirable when you're doing live meetings for this kind of prospecting. And if it starts to run long and they want it to run long and you want it to run long, great, but it doesn't have to. If you clicked that link to make an appointment with me when that popped up, you were taken into an online booking system. And that booking system links to my calendar. So it can see straight into my calendar and it knows which times to make available to you and which ones not to. So your goal in this case is to get those prospects to ask you for a free consultation so you can start talking to them. If you already booked that meeting with me, then you've probably already received an automated email that said, hey, thanks for booking. Here's the video link for our meeting. Andrea will see you then. That's a great way to prospect. So your goal is to get customers to ask for that and then give you that email address and set up that initial meeting so you've got the email address to market to, and so you have a face-to-face meeting that hopefully gets them closer to becoming your customers. There's a link, the link that you saw or press the button on in that pop-up I shared. You can put that link on your website. You can share that link in a webinar like I just did. You can share the link on social media. You can share it on my Google business profile. So if you look at this Google business profile on the right, it says appointments and there's a link there. I hate that Google doesn't let you customize that link. I use Amplify for our system, so it says the link is getamplify.com. But still, if somebody looks for us on Google, they can book an instant meeting. Robin, the CRM discussion's a really long one, but if you book that 20-minute free session, I'll tell you all about it. And we're getting so many questions about CRM, we might need to do just a webinar on CRM, so I'm also considering that. But anyway, if somebody's searching for you on Google, put the link to get a free appointment right on your My Business profile. And you can also share the link through online chat. So if you have online chat on your website and somebody pops in and you say, hey, how can I help you? And they start asking questions, you can say, hey, you want to do an instant meeting? You just send them the link and they can pop through. So free, no obligation meetings are a great way to do face-to-face early stage selling practices. So we're talking about these scheduling and management systems, and they offer you a booking page, a link to your calendar, where an ability to customize your availability. So like my calendar doesn't make all the hours I'm available all week long available for those meetings, or I would end up with a calendar that had no open space in it. So I say I'm available for this many hours on Mondays and this many hours on Tuesdays, etc. So you can customize what your availability is, and you can offer instant meetings. So the client picks a time slot, it's automatically added, they get a confirmation email. And systems like Calendly and Vocus and Schedule Once are really good systems to do this. We do use a system called Omnify. It's a great system. It's also much more expensive and it's suitable for consulting companies. But I thought it was kind of expensive to share with you guys because I don't think for product companies it's as great an option. But it is a great software, so Omnify is the other one. Some meeting systems like Vectera, GoToMeeting, Microsoft Teams offer an open or always-on virtual meeting room. So that's where somebody can just pop in. So if people know that I have open office hours this week between these hours, then I just turn on my Vectera system and people knock and I open it and we're talking. It's that easy. It's like making a phone call, only more Jetsons. You can, again, promote this through pop-ups on your website or on your Google My Business profile or through your chat feature. Or you can use a memorable short link and tell people about it on the phone system. So what's a short link? Well, have you ever tried to tell someone, well, go to this page on my website. It's http //www /mentorworks or .mentorworks.com /php.index/ yeah, it's never going to happen, right? A short link, and there are many systems you can use like Bitly, turns all of that mess into works.me/meeting. You can tell somebody that on the phone. So you're talking on the phone and you're like, hey, you want to do this as a video conference? Just type in works.me/phone. Okay, there you are. All right, let's talk. You hang up the phone, you're talking on video. So that's a great way to do prospecting work and connection work and all kinds of work. Webinars are fantastic prospecting tools. If you do them for free, then you're doing them for the email addresses that you need so that you can do future marketing. Remember, the highest ROI of all digital marketing is still email. And it's like going to a trade show. So if you go to a trade show, you're going for contacts and business cards, right? Well, in this digital sales world, you do need to prospect constantly, but the currency of this prospecting and networking isn't the business card anymore, it's the email address. So you want to use webinars to attract attendees that aren't already on your email list, or they may be on your mailing list, but they might as well not be. Like most of us have people that we could call them prospects, but we've actually never had any interaction with them. So webinars are a great way, and events are a great way to get the prospecting piece moving along faster. So let's talk about prospecting with business-to-business webinars. So if you're a supplier and you want to use webinars for marketing, consider offering product demonstrations. People love demonstrations, and it's a low-risk way for them to see what you have to offer without engaging in a conversation that maybe they're not ready for yet. And if you're thinking that it's too hard to do demos online, then remember, if doctors can practice medicine online, you can probably figure out how to do product demos online. It really does work. I recommend offering product demonstrations constantly. Then save the recordings, do a little production to add a graphic at the front, a graphic at the back, and a little music leading in, a little music leading out. This is super easy stuff to do on a lot of very low cost or free video production systems that are user friendly. Then you load it up to YouTube. Now you're building your YouTube channel, which is the second highest search engine. Google's the most important search engine. YouTube is the second most important search engine. And then once you have it on YouTube, you can pop it into your website, you can share it on social media. So I want you to really think about doing a lot of product demo webinars, but then using them long past when the webinar is done for all your other video promotion. It's a great way to build the video channel. But you can also prospect with business to consumer webinars. So retailers and studio jewelers, this is for you. One of the reasons to build customer profiles is to understand what your target customer likes. So it's important that you know what your core customer or your target customer is interested in and what they spend money on other than your business. This is important for a lot of reasons that we don't even have time to get into right now, but that information can be a gold mine for you. So when it comes to webinars, like say you live in a university town and your community is maybe very associated with the university through administration or teaching or whatever. You could host webinars with local thought leaders where they present a topic or you interview them. That could bring new prospects to your business. Or if you have a clientele that's really into nature, you could do birding or gardening or flower arranging webinars. Yeah, sure, talk about jewelry once in a while, but build a reputation for offering interesting information of value to your target community. You'll start building business relationships. You'll be gaining a reputation for being an interesting and engaged business, and you'll be collecting those email addresses. So webinars are for you too. You can also prospect with online events. Now, if you're one of the suppliers on this call, you're probably really worried right now about what you're going to do to find new customers if there aren't any trade shows for another year. Online events, whether you participate in an event offered by one of the event companies, or if you offer an event of your own, they're one way to address this problem. Now, for the studio jewelers and retailers in the room, don't stop listening. I'm going to talk about what you can do with events in a minute. Okay, so event marketing for you suppliers is an excellent way for you to prospect. Well, the client in Atlanta who shared the hop-in information has been doing events with crazy success. So these work. Feel free to ask her about it directly. I won't give away any of her information, but Cerise D in Atlanta is doing events. So you don't have to be JCK or MJSA or Atlanta Jewelry Show to host an event. You may know other suppliers that have complementary products. Well, if you think about what happened decades ago, the Atlanta Jewelry Show and IJO both got their starts by groups of suppliers and sales reps getting together and saying, what the heck, let's create a trade show. Since the 1990s, late 1990s, the economics of physical trade shows have been pretty tough, but it would be much more cost effective, much less barrier to entry if people wanted to do that kind of collaboration in a virtual event. These events could be a 1 or a 2-day event, or you could spread them out over the course of like a week, the way In-Store Magazine just did. So these are great ways to prospect. Make them free for the attendees, capture the email addresses, see if you can't get some more people into your sales funnel. If you're a retailer, you could, or a studio jeweler, designer, you could offer a local bridal show or a Mother's Day event or a graduation event. I mean, pick a reason. So let's go do an example. You could invite other local retailers to participate with you for, let's do a Mother's Day event. So you could have presentations and booths with various gift options that could be sold. Everything from the things little children can afford to the things dad should be thinking about, and that's where you are, to the things that people can make. So you could do craft presentations and flower arranging presentations. This could be an event. And you would get all of those leads from your community that you may not have encountered before. With prospecting through events and webinars, you can reach a really wide audience and make a much stronger relationship start in that prospecting phase. Now, we just spent a lot of time talking about prospecting, and that's good because that's where you start bringing the customers in so you can bring them down through the funnel. The funnel gets narrow at the bottom because less people get down that far. So what does that mean? You have to bring a lot of people in at the top. Prospecting should be something you're thinking a lot about. But now let's move on to talking about connecting, because that's the second step in the sales process. So anyone who is in sales knows the absolute joy of making a great connection with a new prospect or customer. Suddenly you're no longer selling, you're engaged, you're having a great conversation, and it's fun. And that can be just as much fun on video as it is in real life. So I'd like to encourage you again to think about instant or easily scheduled meetings for this connection phase. I think that's a very important part of it. But there are a couple of other tools that I'd like you to add to your thought process about how to connect in the sales process. The first one is connecting through video. Now, I'm not talking about little funky videos that you make in Animoto or Canva or whatever of your product and your logo floats around. That's not what we're talking about. I'm talking about talking to your customers about your products and services. So that is a screenshot from a page in one of, it was a screenshot from a page in one of our websites. It's going back there now. There you go, you should be able to see it. Where we not only show the product and the description of the product, but we also have a little video on there, and it's me telling them about the product and why I created that training session. Everyone's always agonizing over, do I put 1 or 2 or 3 photographs with my product in my website, and what angles should I use, and should they be white background or should they be on a lifestyle background? And I'm saying one of those should be a video, and it could just be you or your salespeople or your head designer talking about that product. That is a fantastic way to do live, or it's not live, but face-to-face selling right at the point of sale. A tool that you can use to do that is Loom. It costs $5 a month. It's ridiculously easy to use. So you can quickly record a video, and as soon as it's done, you get a link, and you can embed that link anywhere you want, and it plays the video for you. So you don't have to have a video production system and then load it somewhere and host it somewhere. Loom takes all the stress of that off the table. But also, you can use Loom for other things. Nope, I don't want to switch screens here. So the other thing that you can do in the connecting phase is send video messages. When it's that easy to do a video, and when we're connecting with people, we're often sending them an email, reaching out, sharing. Yes, I said Loom, Deborah. So Loom. I think it is still up on the screen if you can still see my screen. You could just send an email, but instead of having a bunch of stuff typed in and they have to read and you have to think about to write, do a quick video greeting. So they open up the email, there's your link, it pops right up and it's you talking and it's saying, hey Sandra, it was so fun talking to you on the chat at the webinar last week. I just wanted to let you know I'm here if you want to talk, and here's a link to my instant meeting environment. It's a great way to communicate and connect with people. It's video, but it's very personal and it feels very live. So that's one way you can connect. Webinars are also a great way to do the connecting part of the sales process. So for both B2B and B2C companies, when you're trying to move people down that sales funnel, so they're no longer a prospect, you know who they are, but you're trying to get them to come closer to really wanting to buy your products, this is a different kind of webinar. This is what I call the Hollywood Squares style of webinar. It's a connecting event. So allow people to come in and participate. Mics, cameras, all of it. It's not just you talking to them. And then they can lurk in the background if that's what they want to do. And like prospecting, these events don't have to be about what you sell. Christina Miller, who consults on how to establish responsible supply chain initiatives. Oh, and by the way, she's doing a webinar with me next week on Tuesday, 1 p.m. It's the MJSA webinar series, and she'll be talking all about that with Maggie Gabos. Anyway, so she talks about responsible supply chain initiatives. But she's been doing this type of connecting webinar for her community of people that are interested in responsible jewelry initiatives. And she doesn't just talk about supply chain issues. In fact, she invites guest speakers to discuss things like, things she knows are of interest to the community. So they've talked about business ethics and community involvement and social change, all topics interesting to her community, and the whole community can participate in the discussion. That's a connecting event, very different from a presentation event. So what can you do to offer webinar content that's of interest to your community that helps them be more connected to you? The next step in the sales process is qualifying. So sales qualification is the part of the sales process where you determine whether or not a prospect is a good fit for what you are selling. And ideally, you have a clear understanding of your customer profile so you can compare the prospect's characteristics to that profile. You can use your online meeting software to do some of those qualification steps. So what I did was I put the 15 questions that are usually at the heart of sales qualification. They're up here on the screen. You can do this in a video meeting. It's great to do with them in a live environment, but it's way better to do a video meeting to do the qualification step than just a phone call. And it's certainly better than using email or depending on your website to do it. So use that easy to join video meeting and have those conversations. If you're doing it in a meeting software or through a webinar, sometimes you'll get a group of customers who are really close to being interested. This is going to be more for the supplier end of our spectrum than for the retailer end of the spectrum, but sometimes suppliers can do group sessions. But let me show you how the polling function works in a meeting or webinar environment. It works the same in both. So that poll just pops up on the screen. Can everybody see that? And then you can just answer the question. So you would take the qualifying questions that were on the screen a moment ago, and I'll go back to them. You rephrase them according to your products and your services, and you ask a couple of those questions and you get people to respond to them. And then you collect that information for the qualifying process, and you can make those public. Like I don't know if I made this public or private. Tell me in the chat box, can you see the answers as they're being entered, or can you not? Sometimes you can make it so everybody can see the answers, and sometimes you make it private, and I honestly don't remember how I said it. But I'm watching these answers come into this poll right now. And then when the poll is done, you click End Poll, or you can have a poll run in the background. So that's how you can use a webinar or a meeting system to do the qualification steps. And what problem you're trying to solve, it could be a business problem, it could be for the suppliers. It could be the problem of just finding the right gift. For retailers, finding a good jeweler is right up there with finding the right dentist. Sometimes people are just having the problem of, picking the right company to do business with. So this qualification piece can be nicely done through webinars and meeting software. So when you're clear about the purpose of the sales qualification step, then it's easier to imagine doing digital and live interactions to qualify your customers. Okay, now let's talk about demonstrating value. This is where everybody thinks that this live selling piece is supposed to be. And I hope you're seeing by now, there's a lot of ways you can use the live selling. So now we're on to product demos. And there are some exciting products you can use for this. Some that have been around for quite a while and some that are really new. So we're going to talk about expos, webinars, meetings again, but also something called the Together platform. And we're going to touch on the marketplaces available in the jewelry industry. So you can use online expos, webinars, and meetings to do product demos. They are all really fabulous tools for demos, even for jewelry. You can also combine some live elements with your virtual demos. For designers and brands, you can send out a look box on memo to your resellers prior to the scheduled call. Then, while you hold and talk about each item, your customer can do the same thing. So you're having this live tactical experience on two sides of a virtual call. But you can also get really creative. Some of you guys know Joe Lovato. He's an MJSA member. A lot of people in the industry know him. He used to sit right outside my office, and he was on a technical sales team. And I loved listening to him answer customer questions. So one day I heard him say, he's on the phone, do you have a stapler on your desk? And then a pause. Okay, is it one of the short ones? Pause. Oh, okay, pick that up. It's about that heavy. And I just cracked up because I realized the customer was asking how heavy a particular hand tool was. You can do that too. So think about the comparative items your customer may have at hand that will help them visualize or feel the product that you're demonstrating. I also recommend that if you're going to do a lot of online demos, you should set up a 2-camera solution. The one camera pointed at your face to maintain that personal connection, and then another camera pointed at your desktop or work table or work area to demonstrate the products. It's much more professional than doing a video conference with someone from your phone and making them seasick as you run back and forth between the product and your face. That doesn't work so well. You have two options for a dual camera. One is to hook up 2 cameras to your computer. And if you go to YouTube and search either dual camera Zoom room or dual camera video conferencing, you're going to find all kinds of instructions to figure out how to set up dual cameras. The other way you can do this is you can set up 2 computers. So you can have your desktop in front of you, and then you can have a laptop right here. And the laptop logs in to the meeting like a different person. Just make sure you turn off the microphone on the laptop and the speaker, or you get all this weird reverb. Anyway, you can use a second computer to do that as well. A little attention to the setting and the setup and the lighting for your product demonstration area goes a really long way when you're doing product demos. Okay, now here's a really cool system that I just saw a demonstration of last week. It's brand new. So Buyers Intelligence Group, or BIG. If you're a retailer on this call, you may know them. They work with a lot of retailers and suppliers in the industry. Well, they introduced a new product demonstration system to the industry last week, and I was able to get a demonstration of it. It's called Together, and it's a virtual in-store experience that connects either suppliers with retailers or retailers with consumers for doing product demonstrations. So you can invite your customers to join you for a private appointment. And then there's built-in video conferencing, either one way, either they can see you, but you don't see them, or two-way, which is ideal. So you can do this face-to-face conferencing throughout the discussion. Then there are clienteling tools built into the platform. So you can see what the customer bought in the past, the things they like, information about birthdays and anniversaries. So there's a lot of clienteling information in the system. You can also see what the customer has flagged as something she likes. The system comes with tools, so you can figure out who it would be good to meet with, who you should invite and schedule with, who's due for a discussion with you. Before the meeting, you can create a virtual assortment of things you want to discuss with the customer on the call. And that's really important, by the way, because too much choice overwhelms customers. So if you're just doing a screen share of your website and 1,000 products on the website, that leads to information overload, and people don't get past the demonstrating value step if they get overloaded. They just stop at that point in the sales funnel. So you want to use filtering tools like this to decide exactly what you're going to show them based on what you know about them. That's why this is not a prospecting tool. You don't know people when you're prospecting to them. You can't do a virtual selection. By the time you move down the sales funnel into demonstrating value, you should know enough about them to offer them the right selection. And then once you're in the meeting, you can walk your customer through this branded virtual showroom. And it's not like a web catalog. It has its own look and feel. And then as you click on the items or show them or launch videos, you can show things to the customer, but you can also see what the customer on the other side is doing. You can see, well, I'm trying to show them this, but she's busy clicking on that. So you can kind of see what she's interested in. And then you can build an assortment that's of the highest interest while you're on the call with the customer and push aside the things that she's not interested, just like you would do with your trays at a trade show or with your tray at a retail store. I really liked this system. Go to the website link. Is it on the page? It is not on the page. Shoot, I will send you the link. I'm making a note. If you go search Together System from, and you have to type Boss, not Big. Boss is the technology company. If you Google Together System from Boss, you will find it, but I will also send you a link to Together when we send out the replay link. Okay, so that's a new system for doing online demonstrations. And then finally, marketplaces. So if you use a jewelry industry marketplace like RapNet or VDB or Polygon or IDEX or the upcoming Cloxy, these are all really good tools for demonstrating value, because they've got thousands of diamonds or gemstones or jewelry, whatever their particular mix is, but you can filter them. So if you're looking for a diamond that a particular customer needs, or if you're the vendor of the diamonds or the colored gemstones and you're in that system already and you're having a video meeting with your customer, you can do a screen share. You can do those filters together, and you can figure out products that they want you to send them. I do think it works best with really visual systems like VDB, where you can do the sorting and filtering, but you can also see the actual images of the product. But marketplaces make a great screen share selling tool. Okay, the handling objections phase of the sales process. It's everybody's least favorite phase. And for the purpose of this webinar, I'm just going to say that during the time you're doing your product demonstrations, you're connecting, all of that, you need to be asking the questions that provoke the objections, because until you get the objections on the table, you can't respond to them. Respond to them in real time, and you can kind of move them along toward the close. The point is, it's much more effective to do an objection discussion face-to-face than it is through email or voicemail. So make sure you're getting those objections out while you've got them on that video call so you can deal with objections. Closing is the funniest part of the sales process to me. It's the thing we're all fixated on, but it comes and goes in a flash. Once the objections are handled, you ask for the close. They're either ready or they have another objection. You go back to objections. You ask for the close again, you're done, right? It's super fast. There's not a lot you can do with the live system for closing, other than it's harder to say no to somebody's face. So you kind of want them on video for that. But what I want to talk to you about is payments. So if you're a supplier selling to wholesale accounts, this may not be such an issue because you may do a lot of your work on purchase orders. But if any of you are taking payments via credit card, then taking payments over the phone is not a very secure form of transaction. Even with that card not present code, that CVV code, it's really taking an unnecessary risk. So you do have some methods available to you for collecting payments in a more secure way. On that Together platform, the payment process is integrated and it gets pushed to the customer side. The customer enters their payment and then you get a confirmation on your side. So some environments, apps, marketplaces, they will have embedded payment systems. You can also use push payment methods. So I want you to know about push payments. You can do it in your webinar system, in your meeting system, with anyone that you're talking to in a live environment. So if you use QuickBooks Online, you can actually produce an invoice very quickly, or you could even have most of it pre-produced before your call. So you're just dropping in the lines of what they want as you go. And then you send the link for that invoice directly to the customer. The customer opens up the invoice on their side, enters their payment information, and submits it. So it's a very secure way of doing payments. And of course, QuickBooks Online is going to be integrated to your bank in a safe way. You can also send a PayPal invoice the same exact way. Or you can use a tool like Plug and Paid. So Plug and Paid is a little software program that lets you set up individual items with their images and descriptions and pricing. And then each one of those items gets a link, and you can send the link to the customer, and that link pops up a little cart, and they pay on the cart on their side. For Plug and Paid, they either charge you 1.9% of the transaction plus, and it's 2 euro cents. It's a European company, so it's 2 euro cents per transaction, or you can pay $39 a month with no transaction fee at all. It's a really slick way to collect a quick payment. You just put in the link, they pay, you get confirmation, and on the back end, you can integrate it to your bank or to Stripe or to PayPal, and there are a few other payment systems available. Now, if you don't have a website with a shopping cart, you can set up a commerce solution with Plug and Paid, but I am only recommending this as a stopgap measure because you really do need a fully functioning website to be competitive today. And that includes all of you, B2B and B2C. You need a fully functioning website. Okay, so that's processing. So onboarding and follow-up. Now, onboarding and follow-up are two of the most neglected steps in the sales process, which is unfortunate because they're really vital for converting a one-time purchaser into a loyal fan. Whether you're an organization or a supplier or a retailer, these steps are essential. Now, clearly, doing a quick video chat is a great way to thank someone and find out if they're happy or if they need anything else. Thank you cards are a really frequent follow-up step for many people in our industry, but why not send a video thank you using Loom instead of sending a note? Also, another fun thing to do is to offer customer-only online events. So this makes the relationship feel much more special, and we know that when people feel part of something, it engenders loyalty. So the event could be something like meet the designer or meet the gem carver or inviting in a business speaker. So many customers would be really gratified to be offered the opportunity to join this in crowd, to join this family of customers for a fun event as soon as they've made their first purchase. So that's a great way to do onboarding and following up. So using all the meeting tools we've discussed already to touch base with your customer and find out if they're happy with their purchase and let them know about services you offer that you didn't mention before or that they've probably already forgotten about. These are all great ways to do onboarding and follow-up. So I hope in this session that I've given you ideas to go beyond the basic Zoom meeting. If you can reimagine your sales process to include face-to-face transactions throughout the life of the sale, you not only position yourself to thrive during the months and possibly years to come when people are reluctant to venture out, but it's going to serve you very well beyond the coronavirus. So as I said at the beginning, the sales cycle had already changed dramatically for all of us. Retailer foot traffic was down. Everyone was having a harder time getting ROI from trade shows. These are changes we need to make regardless of the pandemic. And thankfully, the technology is affordable enough for even micro businesses to use. So with that, I'm going to close the presentation and open up for questions. So what questions do you guys have for me? And I'm skimming through them now. Let's see, I will move this back to me talking to you, and you can see me just like bopping my head all over the place to read your notes. Okay. You're welcome, Ginger. So I've either given you such a confusing bit of information, you have no questions, or I've answered all your questions. And while I would prefer to believe that I answered all your questions already, I suspect some clarifications are needed. Oh, Susan, no problem. I really try hard to get the replays out by the next day. Sometimes it takes a few days, but it should be tomorrow. You're welcome, Georgiana. Tell me this. So I have a question for you since you guys aren't having questions. were these ideas that, Jean, that's going out today. Did this give you some ideas that you might not have thought about when it comes to using live tools or, video webinar type tools in your selling process? Good. I'm glad. Yeah, I think if there's any one thing we can do as an industry, it's to really think about selling differently, which includes the beginning of prospecting. We just didn't have to as much in the past. And now with everything changing, we have a lot of work to do. Yeah, I like Loom too, Brenda. Any other questions for me? Okay, well, it looks like we don't have questions coming in. If you do have questions, feel free to email me. I will wrap this up now. I would like to thank MJSA again for presenting this webinar series. Please go to mjsa.org, and there's a link straight to the webinar page. When I close this session, you'll go to that page. Yes, and your first step really should be a CRM system. It's kind of like buying a bunch of great ingredients to make an amazing dinner, but then getting home and being like, oh, I don't have an oven, I can't cook it. And so while you're trying to get the oven, the ingredients spoil. So you really do need a CRM system. I would encourage all of you to put this high on your list of things to accomplish. Okay, so back to thanking MJSA. So go to the website, mjsa.org, go to the webinars page, see what's coming up next. Please join us for those webinars. And I guess that's it for now. I hope you guys all have a lovely rest of the day and a lovely weekend ahead. And I thought I saw another question, but oh, the pop-up box to meet with you. Vincent, what I used in this system, it was the live webinar. So I actually used live webinars pop-up to send that pop-up out to all the attendees. What I use for my meeting, the booking system, is Amplify, but it's a little pricey, and so I can get the ROI on it as a consulting company, but I offered some other things like Calendly that are a little more affordable because I think most companies that aren't consulting companies would prefer those. All right, I don't see any more questions. I'm going to wrap it up. You guys have a good day. Be healthy. Get out in the sun, and hopefully you have sun where you are. I have lots of sun where I am today. And I'll see you guys on Tuesday when we're going to talk about how to get started with putting together a responsible supply chain. So take care. Bye.